Good evening. My name is Tim White. I'm president of the Exchange Club of the San Ramon Valley. For many years on this date, we've gathered with our community in person, along with our scouts, civic leaders, elected officials, veterans, police, firefighters, and many others to remember the tragedy and grief of the events on September 11th, 2001, and to salute the courage that was displayed on that day and many days since by our first responders, by our military, and law enforcement. Why we would love to be surrounded by you and hundreds of our citizens at Danville's Oak Hill Park at the All Wars Memorial. Out of respect for everyone's health and safety this year, the Exchange Club has prepared this exceptional virtual presentation of our annual 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. Thanks to the wonderful technology and awesome production capabilities of the Danville Police Department, led by Chief Alan Shields, we're so happy to be able to continue our tradition of paying special tribute to our first responders and to those that defend our freedom. And so now, to begin our ceremony and to raise our flag, I present to you our honor guard from the Danville Police Department, Lieutenant Jason Ingracia and Officer Carl Summers, and from the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District, Engineer John Youngblood and Firefighter Dan Davis. Accompanying them with the singing of our national anthem will be religious singer and San Ramon native Lenisa Keith.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The Exchange Club is a century-old national service organization whose core values are strength in family, community, and country. In addition to this ceremony, our major activities in the San Ramon Valley include the establishment and maintenance of 14 freedom shrines in various schools and public places throughout the valley, scholarship competitions for our young leaders, and the development and awareness of child safety and the prevention of child abuse. And it's through these activities that the Exchange Club strives to benefit our youth, promote pride in our country, and educate its members so that we may better serve our communities. Each year at this time, our club hosts a 9/11 essay competition. This year's theme is Letters of Appreciation to Our First Responders. We invite all students K through 12 in the San Ramon Valley to participate. Information will be provided on our Facebook page, and cash prizes will be awarded by grade level. Thank you to the Exchange Club for its generosity, and special thanks to Greg Marvel for his leadership with this competition for our club. And now, please stand if you're able and join our local scouts in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2.
Thank you so very much to the Scouts that have joined us here today. We ordinarily have up to 100 Scouts carrying American flags for our Exchange Club, but tonight we have COVID, so we have representative Scouts who have spent their time to come here and help us today. Girl Scout Troop 3067, Madeline Shimatsu. Boy Scout Troop 236, Josh Singh. Venture Crew 236, Richard Mabanag. Cub Scout Pack 841, Declan Simbrot. And Boy Scout Crew 236, Zach Halverson. Why do we gather here each year? We're asked that every year. But we come to share our hearts and prayers and memories for our first defenders and for the Gold Star families who have joined us here today, and for all of you who have lost a beloved coworker, a friend, a family member in the attack on American soil on September 11th, 2001. We have displayed here the flag of honor issued in March 2006. The stripes are comprised of the names of all those who perished in the terrorist attacks on 9/11. I quote the flag wording exactly. Now and forever it will represent their immortality. We shall never forget them. In honor of 71 law enforcement officers, 343 firefighters, and the citizens in the World Trade Towers memorialized on the flag behind me, all who lost their lives in 9/11, and for our military who stood tall to stop further escalation in the face of an attack on our own soil, we gather today. We gather in safety today because their continued valor, vigilance, and bravery continued past 9/11 across the world. This year, our first responders have walked toward danger in the face of over 7,000 firestorms in California and toward active shooters in places of unrest across our country. Today is a day that we can come together, strengthen our bonds of unity, and support all of our first responders, firemen, policemen, military, and all who defend Americans every day. Now we have a very special keynote speaker. It is Captain J. Comella, who worked from the date December 1989 to November 2011, 22 years with the Oakland Fire Department. He lives now in Danville, and we're proud to have him as one of our citizens. He currently serves as a fire instructor in events across the country in the training division. At the time of the terrorist attack on the World Trade Center, Jay Comella was on vacation. Most of the time he served all of us for almost a month in New York. He was on vacation in New York. Right after he arrived, someone called him on the phone, as so many of us heard about that day on the phone, and said, "Watch your television." And of course, that was right before the second building fell. He immediately went, as all our first responders do, toward danger, not away from it. Captain Comella went from vacation to defender as he arrived at the World Trade Center site, approximately 45 minutes after the second collapse. For the next 3.5 weeks, he worked on the pile and was involved with bringing closure to the search for all the victims whom we remember here today. I would like Jay to come forward.
Thank you for inviting me here today to help memorialize the events that happened on September 11th, 2001. Normally, this is not my forte to speak about this event, but I was inspired to do so recently when I saw one of our Danville residents, a Pearl Harbor survivor, who was 103 years old, Mickey Ganich, speaking on the national news. And this was my generation's Pearl Harbor, and needs to likewise be in the instilled in the forefront of our nation's psyche. It's become one of the touchstone events of our nation's history, and it's important that these events and the way Americans rose to the challenges of these events is part of our national psyche. People need to know about these because this history is part of what makes our country great as it is. I was there quite by coincidence on vacation, without expecting anything like this to be part of my trip to New York. When I got down to the Trade Center site, I had to crawl under the pedestrian bridge that connected the World Trade Center to the World Financial Center. And popping up on the other side was all of a sudden being in a lunar landscape that was, the only appropriate term is surreal. Nobody had a previous frame of reference for any event like that. That being the case, it was a chaotic scene. I, with many other people, just went to pitch in and help. There were, in those first few days, a lot of civilians working, a lot of guys from the building trades, especially the iron workers, and they did stellar work throughout. The iron workers, they were involved throughout the whole operation, because as the fire service was searching and doing surface searches and general debris removal, often they would be met by heavy structural steel that the iron workers would then sling to their cranes, cut in sections and lift out of the way, and then the search could continue anew. Through my involvement in various training activities over the years, I'd developed relationships with many people in the FDNY, and unfortunately, several of those were among the missing, and those that didn't survive. I was actually that day going to meet with my very good friend Andy Fredericks at his firehouse. Had I gone in the morning, I would have been with him on the rig and likely where he was when the collapse occurred. For members of the fire service out there, if you haven't heard of Andy Fredericks, please look him up and read his numerous articles on engine company operations, and it'll help make you better at your trade. On that first day, I was fortunate enough to be involved with the removal of 2 people who were rescued and lived and survived. I say fortunate because so many people that worked down there worked in the rescue and the recovery, had nothing to do with anybody that was alive. And both the people that we brought out there were alive. Those of us carrying them out in Stokes baskets or Stokes litters had no idea that they were alive. They were motionless by the time they were handed off to us, and covered in the dust that made everything monochromatic. There was a song written about that dust called "Everybody Was One Color for a Day," and it was true, because the black woman and the white man that we carried out were exactly the same color. And as we were taking them over the debris pile, when they were jostled about in the litter, they all of a sudden grunted and groaned and moved around, and we were shocked that we had live people that we were carrying out. Because mainly it was the removal of people that had perished. And on that first day, one of the people I was involved in removing was the highest ranking member of the FDNY that was killed that day. His name was First Deputy Commissioner William Feehan. And it's odd when you're carrying somebody out that you've met before. I had met him a few times at these various training events. And it was quite an arduous trip out with someone in a Stokes litter over all the rubble pile. And as we were about to slide him into the back of an ambulance, the senior fireman had us stop before we slipped him in the back of the ambulance and said a prayer over him. It was very poignant, and ended with, "Chief, you did your duty. We pray we can do ours as well." And that kind of set the tone for the next 3.5 weeks. Those were words to be guided by throughout my work there. And that's just one of many anecdotes about working there. My friend Andy was found about 3.5 weeks later, and I was fortunate that I was able to work until he was found, fortunate to be able to recover him so his family could have closure, and I was fortunate to be able to go to his funeral. And you know, I lost several acquaintances and friends, but that's pales in comparison to the men I know who are members of the New York Fire Department who lost hundreds of people that they know, and many that they were very close to. I ran into, on the first day of on the pile, I ran into a friend, a New York fireman, wandering around in a daze with what became very common there, the 1,000-yard stare. His name was Zach Fletcher, and when we ran into each other, he said, "Hundreds are missing." And I said, "I know." And Zach says to me, "How do you know?" And I asked, "What did you say to me?" He said, "Andre is missing." Well, Andre was Zach's twin brother. This was a man that was stumbling around looking for his twin brother. And these were two happy-go-lucky twins that always said, Andre and Zach have everything covered from A to Z, and they did. Just in closing, I would really like to, again, thank you for the opportunity to help remember these people, remember my friends, remember my dear friend Andy Fredericks. And I think that those that left us would find it a fitting tribute to them if, when you think about the tragedy our country suffered, the loss of so many citizens, and the heroism that so many exhibited, please do something of service. Do something better than you would otherwise if you had not pondered our loss, their sacrifice, and their heroism. Thank you.
As you who are in the military know, or have been a first responder in fire or police, it's unbelievably trying to tell your story. To have Captain Comella come and tell such a difficult story makes it such a picture for all of us. And he did so because he realized how important it is to tell that story, even though he relives it every time he does so. So we're very grateful for him to share that, and it's very important across our country that people hear that story. So thank you very much, Captain Comella. Today, we also want to thank our Veteran Service Organization leaders. Of course, they serve continuing in the Veterans Memorial Building, and they are also here to honor our first responders. They are Commander Eric Ardell of the American Legion Post 246, Commander Mike Reagan of Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 75, Lee Halverson, standing for Commandant of the U.S. Marine Corps League Detachment 942, and Vice President Dennis Giacovelli of the Vietnam Veterans of Diablo Valley. So thank you for your continuing service to our veterans. We will also be introducing our Gold Star families, and while we do so, Lanisa Keith will again grace us with a beautiful song, God Bless the USA. As they say those words, or sing those words, we will have Skip George, who's my co-coordinator for the 9/11 ceremony, former lieutenant of the U.S. Army 5th Special Services, A-Team in Vietnam, present roses to those mothers who lost their sons overseas following the attack on the World Trade Center. These Gold Star mothers have joined us before, but there is nothing more special than giving them something that tells us how much meaning their sons have had in all of our lives. There are approximately 30 Contra Costa County families who suffered such an undescribable loss in our county and wake up every day with that information. We were proud to spend some time with them last week. Today, Roxanne Langevin, in honor of her son, Corporal Sean K.A. Langevin, U.S. Army, November 9th to 7, 173rd Airborne Combat Team, Afghanistan. We are proud to have Tiana Odson, Airman First Class, Alfred V. Comlev, who served the U.S. Air Force, September 1816, Italy. Mary Tollefson, Private First Class Benjamin B. Tollefson, U.S. Army, December 31, 2008, Iraq. And Patty Harris, who has 2 fireman sons, but is not here for that. She is like our wrangler for these Gold Star moms, giving us a chance to meet them during the year. She reaches out to these families, and today she's standing in for Yolanda Vega to recognize her son, Senior Airman Jonathan Antonio Vega Yelna, U.S. Air Force, April 29, 2008, in Afghanistan.
If tomorrow all my things were gone and I had to start again, I had to pick up from the start with just my children and my man, I'd thank my God above to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA. Well, there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the ones who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died and gave that right to me. And I'd gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you to our Gold Star mothers for nurturing such strong, committed, and compassionate soldiers who were such proud Americans. Your grace in the face of such loss fills us with compassion and gratitude for an America that was built on your sons' devotion to patriotism. On this day, one of the hardest that you have each year, thank you for allowing us to share this day of prayer and remembrance with you. We now close our ceremony with the clarity of echo taps by our buglers, Robert McHale, who is a junior at Monte Vista High School, and his scout leader and father, Joseph McHale. It's very appropriate that they do echoes. You have seen many pictures today of the Pearl Harbor survivors, and of course everyone had memorials across America for lest we forget Pearl Harbor. And now we have memorials across America inscribed for 9/11. And so it is appropriate that we have an echo of what we remember every day of our lives. On this inscription, engraved for Somerset, Pennsylvania, the Pentagon, and New York City, it says, "Through blurred eyes, we find the strength and courage to soar beyond the moment. We look to the future, knowing we can never forget the past. God bless America."